mutation. So genes regulate the protein productions, and each protein performs the specific function for the cells. So cancer starts when one or more gene mutates. So you can see the left side, that when the DNA sends the specific instruction to the protein when cells should be stopped or when cells should be growth. When that instruction not coming, the so the protein is mutated, so then cell growing in the uncontrolled and unstoppable way. So that form the tumors. But not all tumors are solids. Some like blood cancer, that the liquid cancer, right? So that this mutation can come for the last DNA mutation from a hereditary, like from our parents, and also the radiation or chemicals, all spontaneous error during the DNA duplications. In 1992, Ed Fisher and Ed Krebs shared the Nobel Prize in Medicines, discovered these phenomena. They found that the protein, certain proteins, some protein, phosphorylated, catalyzed by the kinase. So they take the one phosphate group from the ATP to become the ADP. And the same times they observe protein are dephosphorylated. That's catalyzed by the phosphatase enzymes. This is the one of the major cell-based research or cell signaling pathway research to come to know. So today I will discuss mostly the kinase. You know that human genome has more than 500 kinase. Kinase have emerged more attractive target in the second to the GPCR drug discovery. Majority of the kinase bind in the ATP sites. More than 50 kinase inhibitor USA FDA approved for treatment for several types of cancer as well as some other disease like multiple sclerosis, neuroscience. More than 200 kinase inhibitor coming to the clinical trial in the different stages. So hopefully more treatments should become available. So before showing the drug, what kind of chemical structure I'll show there this what properties we should consider would be the drug or drug-like at least. So you can see that here we consider the two types of drugs. One is the peripherally acting drugs. So that drug working in the whole body. One drug going to the central acting, that called the CNS drug, central nervous systems. So that drug has to go to the brain. So in these two categories, we divided their molecular weight and log P, and that's some other properties. You can see the molecular weight will be less than 550 if it drug working for peripherally. But in the drug, that drug working the centrally acting, that will be molecular weight will be less than 450. Same with the log P, the partition coefficient of the drug and in the organic solvent and the waters. So that depends on the drug's cell permeability, solubility. So that will be the log P will be less than 5 for peripherally acting drugs. If the drug has to go central acting, that's log P will be less than 4. Polar surface area, that's also determine the compound polarity. So that will be the 141 extents. And the central acting drugs, that will be the less than 80 hundreds. And hydrogen bond donor and hydrogen bond acceptor, they have some restriction there. So you can see here, centrally acting drug has more restrictions because that drug has to cross the blood-brain barriers. So most of central CNS drug fail because the blood-brain barrier did not cross. So that is the more important message from this slide. So protein kinase inhibitors, there are several kinase inhibitors, already 50 kinase inhibitors FDA approved. So they are categorized in the 3 class. If the kinase, the inhibitor binding in the ATP sites, you can see here the hinge regions where there are interaction of the hydrogen bond donor and acceptors playing the roles, that called the ATP competitive inhibitors. If the compound binding the not the ATP site but the allosteric site, the far away for ATP site, or also hinge regions, that called the allosteric site inhibitors. That time we also check the 3 amino acids where they are binding theirs. They call the DFG motif out. D the aspartic acid, phenylacetic, F is the phenylalanine, and G is the glutamic acids. And the third class also you can call the 1.5 or the class 3. That's the compound binding the back pocket of the pharmacophores. That's the mostly inactive site of the kinase. So today I will discuss the 4 kinase inhibitor pathway, the PI3, AKT, mTOR, and PDK1s. So this pathway is very complex and continuing evolving. But here I am just illustrating now very simple way so you can understand. The growth factor induces the receptor tyrosine kinase is called the RTKP. When this RTP kinase induced, they activated to the PI3 kinase. PI3 kinase has two phosphate sites. One is the phosphate 85 and phosphate 110. That kinase activated, then they take the one phosphate from the ATP that become the PIP2 to PI3P3, phosphate phosphate 3. Also, there are the P10 there, that the tumor suppression protein that can also sometimes inhibiting there. When this PI3K activated, it's the relay systems. Then the PDK1, the PI3K dependent kinase 1 also activated. That activated go to the AKT substrates. The AKT substrate has two phosphorylation sites. One is the threonine 308, one is the serine 473. If the readout is the phosphorylation is the threonine 308, we call the PDK readout. This is a PI3 dependent kinase. If the phosphorylation is the serine 473, we call the mTOR C2 readouts. Similarly, AKT go to the more downstream kinase, the polyene-rich AKT substrate 40 kilodalton proteins. So that has also two phosphorylation sites. One is the serine 183 and the one is the threonine 246. If the threonine 246 phosphorylated, we can call the AKT readouts. If the serine 183 phosphorylated, we can call their mTOR C1 readouts. And that's got the downstream more the S6 kinase to the program death cell protein. It got the mTOR C1 readout or serine 475 PDK readouts. So this pathway is the crucial path. It can be important cellular signaling pathway. This path regulated several factors like cell growth, proliferation, cell survival, protein synthesis, glycolysis or metabolism. This pathway is one of the most common molecular pathway of the cell signaling of and every human cancers. Indeed, aberrant activation of PI3 cascade or including P10 inactivations, PI3 kinase activation, activating mutation present several cancers, so that 32% the colon cancers, 30% breast cancer, 30% melanoma, and 20% breast cancer, and 25% stomach cancers. So today I mentioned only the melanoma, the one type of aggressive skin cancer. So we took the one initiation, high throughput screening of 50,000 compounds, and we identified the BI6911. You can see the compound 5s. And its compounds working good in the in vitro assay, the kinase binding assay, activity assay, as well as cell-based assay. But in order to test this compound, it working in the in vivo models, we need to synthesize large scales. The first we test the synthesis camps to find which way it can be easy synthesized in the large scale in the highest quality. So first step is the amide 1 formations. You can see the amine with the acid chloride that can give the compound 2. In the compound treating in the Fries rearrangements, the high temperature in aluminum chloride, you can get this compound 3. When compound 3 in your hands, you can use this compound to react with ethyl acetates under the microwave conditions in the 350 microwatt in the presence of selenium chloride catalyst. It can give this compound 4, this reaction called the Friedlander annulations. When you have this compound 4, you can see they have the COCH3. So that's the very active groups. So you can condense this compound with the several aldehyde. This is called the Claisen condensation. So you can make library of compounds, the 100 or 1,000 compound, you can make this way. So after synthesize this compound in the gram scales, we gave this compound to our collaborators. He tested this compound in the 3 in vivo model, animal models. One is the AKT leads regression of xenograft melanoma. One is he tested the compound is working in the AKT1 and NF-kappa B pathway. Also, he tested this compound in the mutation of the protein like NRAS and NK alpha mouse model mutation of this compound. And you can see this all result already published. You can see there. So after that, this result encourages us to optimize our hit compound called the BI6911 to find the lead compound or better compound than the hit compounds. So here I showing only few structure, but we synthesized more than 200 or 300 compounds. But I selected only few compounds. You can see there our ideal structure will be there. Molecular will be less than 500. Log P will be less than 5. Typical polar circle will be less than 80. So you can see this all compound has the molecular weight below 500. Their C log P also below 500, the below 5s, and the typical topological polar surface area also less than 80. Compared to the our competitor compound, GSK compound, they have little higher polar surface area because they have a lot of heteroatoms. Otherwise, this compound comparable to the one drug compound or the GSK pharmaceutical already phase 3 of approved the FDA approved drugs. So when you have the kinase fields, so you have to take the compound is working against the other kinase or not. So you need the very selective because one kinase to another kinase, they have the 90 to 95% the homologous sequence, and the ATP pocket is almost 100% homologous. So if the kinase is not selective, that will be give the lot of problem in the cross-take in the cell culture reaction. So it took this compound, tested in the 350 kinase available in the market in the commercial. Although 518 kinase are discovered, only 350 kinase we can test it now. So you can see the first rank is the BI6911, and second part is the the new compound BI109C10s. They are only out of 350 kinase, only 20 kinase hitting there some percentage of inhibitions. And we also tested their compound, the dose response, the IC50 of the molecule. So you can see only the Aurora kinase or the Czech kinase or sphingosine kinase, they are giving the similar result of the AKT or PI3 pathway. So these kinase are also targeting the cancer. So we can say that our compound are fairly selective against the 350 kinase. Out of 350 kinase, only 15 or 20 kinase showing there some significant inhibitions. After that, we also took the computational study, the molecular docking study of 3 compounds. This is our first compound is the BI69. This is the first compound, is the hit compound, and we just change a little bit in the different of phenyl rings. Also, you can see the one at C is only phenyl, one fluoro, one hydrogen replaced by the one fluorine because their molecular would be not much change. And similar thing, we replace the one hydrogen to fluorine groups. The molecular docking showing their all compound binding mode is similar. They are interacting in the lysine 181, threonine 292, and glutamic acid 279. Because you can see there, this and this and this, these are only hydrogen bond and donor. So this compound, the original compound with our new compound, they have the similar pattern because of we did not change their hydrogen bond donor acceptor moiety. So that should be the similar bonding moiety as is expected. Then we tested this compound in the 4th melanoma, the skin cancer cell lines, the melanoma, 1 prostate cancer and 1 breast cancer. The first 4 is the melanoma, the USCC 903, leucine 1205, melanoma 501, WM 1366. These 4 are the melanoma cell lines. PC3 the prostate cancer cell line, MDA, MB the breast cancer cell lines. So you can see here we taking this compound against our negative control, the DMSO, and also our hit compound and the new compounds. And we are determining their biomarker, which protein they are phosphorylating and which side they are. So you can taking their phospho-AKT, like the threonine 308, this is the PDK1 marker. Also, you are checking the phospho-AKT serine 473 levels, total AKT levels. Also, you are checking the phospho PRAS 40, threonine 246 is the AKT kinase. So you can see here in the DMSO, there is no inhibition at all. In the old compound, the hit compound, there are some inhibitions, but not that good compared to the new compound, the compound 49. Similarly, in this cell lines, you can see the DMSO is just DMSO also little inhibiting. DMSO has some reactive functional groups. But in the 6911, you can see the old compound inhibiting almost similar to DMSO, but in the compound, new compound, you can see the completely inhibitions or significant inhibition better than the old compound or in the negative control DMSO. So that indicating the compound are inhibiting to the PDK1 because they are phospho-AKT threonine 388. This is the phosphorylated sites. Similarly, you can see the phosphoroacticides, also similar in these cell lines. You can see profound results, significant results. You can see all the old compound. This is also inhibiting, but in the new compound, completely inhibited. And also we check the phospho-PRS 43 this is also AKT levels. So in this cell-based assay in the Western world analytics indicate that the new compound has better cellular profile activity than the old compounds. So we selected with the USCC 903 cell lines to test this compound in the in vivo models. So this is the new compound, the genogram models. So we take the three type of animals, the nude mice. One group we treated the vehicles. One group we treated the 10 milligram per kilo because the mice weight is the weight. And another dose we put the 25 milligram per kilo. You can see the up to 77 days there are no change, significant change. The tumor volume also increasing and the compound treating they are almost similar. But if you come in the 21 days, and the DMSO is a vehicle, this is the vehicle is mostly water or DMSO, this is the tumor volume is increasing compared to the group animal model we tested. This is the 10 milligram per kilo or 25 milligram per kilo. This is the tumor volume decreasing, not the increasing like the DMSO or the vehicles. And you can see the profound result in 28 days. The tumor volume from starting from here, now tumor volume is increasing here. But if we're treating this compound in the two different mice models, we can see the tumor volume is not increasing compared to the controls. So that's indicating that this compound working very good in the in vivo models. After that, we tested this compound has any adverse toxicity effects or not. So we take this compound and also treated the 4 type of animal models. We selected the one animal model, we treated the vehicles and the 30 milligram per kilo dose, 50 milligram per kilo dose and 100 milligram per kilo dose. And we check the body weight every day, first day, second day, third day, up to 7th day. You can see when the vehicle treated the compound, the body weight of the mice in the 20 grams, and the second day 21, up to 7 day, you can see the only 21.7, so a little change because there's some experimental error also coming. But if you see the 30 milligram per kilo dose, or even the high dose or the 100 milligram per kilo, you can see the body weight of the after 7 days significantly same. So that's indicate that the compound is not harmful for the testing for the other indications. So we tested this compound in the orally. After that, we also tested this compound orally to the different blood chemistry to see this compound had anything harmful for the different organs, and there are some other items. Here you can see the item albumins. We check the albumin level, total bilirubin level, total protein, globulin level, the blood urea nitrogen level, also mineral, calcium, sodium, potassium, and glucose levels. So you can see this is the organ we selected from the liver and the pancreas, kidney. This is the vehicles, this is the water. When the vehicle we treated, so they have the initially 3.5 gram per deciliters in the liver, in the albumin. After treating the 50 milligram per kilo or 100 milligram per kilo, still they are 3.2 and 3.2. They're not significant changing. Similarly, you can see the global total protein levels 5.4, 5.4, 5.6 gram per deciliters. Or total bilirubin levels 0.3, 0.3, 0.3. So we can compare always the vehicles against these two doses. So you can see the glucose levels also not increasing that much, but you can see the sodium and the potassium levels. For sodium level is 144 millimole per liter, 146 millimole per liter, and 144. So the compare almost identical. So these results indicate that the compound has no adverse effect in the body. So it can be tested by the humans in the first clinical trials. So this is the first term. So it first heat compound here, Bi1611, with little changing there, then we find the first generation 1-oxygen compounds. But after we further optimize, we get these compounds. You can see that now molecular weight will be reduced less. And this compound, this is our latest compound, and the lead compound now, which can be tested the human very soon. So compared to the first compound, Bi1611 to the Bi1612, we improve the 50 times improve the potency, so the IC50, 60 times improve the aqueous solubility, 100 times improve the cell permeability, favorable PK properties. You can see the lower clearance, 60 ml per minute per kilo. Half-life is the 3 hour in the mouse model. Viability orally is the 30%. And in the order thing, this compound also working the where the vemurafin, the FDA-approved drug, that's also working the melanoma, but that drug is not working. This compound working better than the FDA-approved drugs when the melanoma, the aggressive skin cancers. So that's indicate that we can go further this compound. Hopefully one day it can come for human clinical trials. So my second part, the most popular parts, these are popular science. So it's in the how to prevent the cancer and what type of cancer prevention there and what the treatment there, how to detect the cancer. So this will be my second part. So you can see the cancer is a silent killer, hard to diagnose. It's often resistant to the standard therapy. We have not found any active cure for cancer yet, just treatment, just for survival rate, 5 years to 10 years, but not 100% cure. Cancer is the imperial oral maladies, and frequently cancer metastasis. That's means the cancer start one organ to another organ. That called the metastasis. That time cancer will be very difficult to treat. So what the causing for cancers? This slide you can see that 1.5% cancer coming from the air pollutions, 0.5% cancer coming from the indoor smoke from the household, like the wood or the coke or other things that can come also some type of cancers. And smoking, the tobacco smoking is the most dangerous, highest cancer coming from the tobacco smoking. Even the second-hand smoking can come the cancers. Alcohol, 6% cancer come from alcohol drinking. Who drink the alcohol, there are some more problem also there. And that now the human lifestyles. The human people, they are eating so many bad things. So they have to find the vegetables, the low vegetable intakes, that's also come 27% cancer. Unsafe sex, that's the virus. I will show you later. There's some cancer caused for virus. So that cancer come 5% cancer, total 5% cancer coming from the virus. Physical inactivity, that's also not only the cancer, that can be any disease. So you have to take care of your body. The contaminated injection of the healthcare setting, 10% cancer coming there. And the overweight and obesity or diabetes, that's also 10% cause for cancers. So here are the environmental factors. There are two environmental factors. One is the air pollution, another is the water pollution, right? And the air, if there's too much lead there, that lead go to the brains, they're becoming the headache, fatigue, even the brain cancer. If the air has so much carbon monoxide, ozone, or particulate matter, that can affecting the respiratory illness like the lungs. If they have a lot of sulfur dioxide, nitric oxide, that can harmful the cardiovascular disease. And the volatile organic compound like the benzene or other compound that cause the skin cancers. Similarly, the water pollutions. The water has so much bacteria or parasites that can cause cancers. And the chemicals like arsenic poisons. As the World Health Organization says, 140 million people in the world drinking the water has the highest level of arsenic, including in Bangladesh. So we have to consider that also. The soil contaminations, what we are using the pesticides, that pesticide come to their body, that can cause also several cancers. So I call the cancer causing pathogens. So there are one bacteria called Helicobacter pylori and 3 virus, on the hepatitis B virus, hepatitis C virus, and human papilloma virus. These 3 virus causing the so many cancer also. I will show you the next slide. The human papillomavirus causes several cancers. You can see the anal cancer and oral cancers, both male and females. The cervical cancer, vulvar cancer, and vaginal cancer can come for females, and penile cancer for male. So next slide is the cancer associated with the overweight and obesity. If their body, that's come with the determinant for the people's height and weights. The body mass index, that will be if their body mass index is too high, so that can problem so many cancer. Not only cancer, there are so many other diseases also. So now anyhow, I am discussing now here cancer. You can see their brain cancer, we call the meningioma, adenocarcinoma, multiple myeloma, this is the blood cancer, kidney problem, endometrial cancer, that's the problem with the uterus, ovary cancers, thyroid cancers for both male and females, breast cancer for females, the liver cancer, gallbladder cancer, upper stomach cancer, pancreatic cancer, colon and rectum cancer, all male and female, that can cause for the overweight or diabetes. For alcohol drinking, like ethanol, there are large consumption people drinking the alcohol, so they have problem for the mouth cancer, blood anemia problems, heart problems, liver problems like cirrhosis, hepatitis problem, stomach cancer, pancreatic cancer, and even though they are coming the brain cancer. But there's some research study there. They said that if the people take the very small amount of consumption of the alcohol, there might be some benefit there, but that benefit is very small and people will be addicted. So we consider or we recommend or suggesting that people should not drink any alcohols. So tobacco smoking, that is the most dangerous problem coming to cancer. Because the lung cancer is the #1 cancer in the world, and that cancer coming mostly tobacco smoking, even the second-hand smoking. So not only the lung cancer, the smoking problem, larynx cancer, esophagus cancer, the myocardial infection, this is the heart disease, systematic atherosclerosis, this is the blood disease, bladder cancers, pancreatic cancers, lung cancer, peptic ulcer cancer, and several other cancer caused for this tobacco smoking. So we should not smoke. So after the lung cancer, both male and female, the breast cancer is the second cause for the females. But if they are not shy, like the conservative country like India or other country, they should go to doctor if they find the first times, and if they detected first times, that should be cured 100%. You should not wait for the cancer metastasis one part to another part. So there are some way you can determine yourselves, or you can go to the doctor. If you are shy, you can go to check the female doctors. The first thing is the redness of the breast. Second thing, you can see the breast swelling or enlargements, pain or itchiness of the breast, and fourth stage is the thickenings of the breast. And then 5th stage, this is called the metastasis. That the cancer spread one spread to the another page. This time is showing the lymph nodes. So that time very hard to survive the patients. So if they are go to the first stage, 100% sure people can survive. And also the breast cancer come from their hereditary. If their mother has breast cancer, their daughter has chance breast cancer. They have to test that if these genes they are carrying or not. So this is the American Cancer Guidelines. We talk every time when we go to the hospital or even the patients. For women age 20 to 29 age, the breast exam that called the mammograms and PAP test for every 1 to 3 years. Women age 30 to 39 years, mammograms, that's called the X-ray of breast, every 1 to 3 years, PAP test for the human papilloma virus every 5 years. Women age 40 to 49 years, breast test every year, PAP and HPV, the human papilloma virus that causes so many other cancer, test will be every 5 years. Women age 50 to 75, mammogram every year, PAP and HPV test every 5 years, colonoscopy every 10 years. Women age 76 years or older, their doctor should decide. Man age above 50, you can see the man has less chance of cancer before 50 years, but women has cancer can start even the 20 years old because they have so many other things, right? The man age above 50, the pancreatic, the prostate cancer and the colonoscopy is the most common cancer, so they have to test every 10 years. All adult age 50 to 70 pair, in respect to the gender, if they're smoking, test for lung cancer every year. If not smoking, in good health, testing for lung cancer every 10 years. And women in the time of menopause should consider testing for the endometrial cancer. Any unexpected vaginal bleeding or spotting should be considered and reported immediately to their physicians. So what are the treatment available in this now? The first treatment is the surgical removal for some cancer you can remove from the body, but it's not easy because it depends on the location, the patient age, health, some other things. Second is the radiation therapy. We can kill the cancer or shrink the tumor volumes using the high intensity radiations. But it also same thing, there are some problem if the patient are too old and health is not good and the location of the cancers. Third is the chemotherapy. This time we are giving the cytotoxic compound They kill the cancer cells as well as normal cells. So they have this drug is not safe. But if there are no any other drug, we have to give the chemotherapy like a Taxol. This is the chemotherapy drug for everybody using. But next is the immunotherapy. This is the new treatments, and this very attractive treatment. The scientists have discovered new way to boost the human body immune response to cancers. So they can give the immune response, increase the immunity to respond to cancers. Targeted therapy, this is the more safer than the chemotherapy, because the targeted therapy, we are targeting only the mutated protein. Because the mutated protein, cancer cell contains only the mutated protein. But normal cell, they don't have the mutated protein. So this targeted drug, we are targeting directly the cancer cell, not the normal cells. So that is the more safer than the chemotherapy. Hormone therapy, this is the only for the some cancer depend on the hormones, like the breast cancer or the prostate cancers. But there are so many drugs available there. You can stop their hormone signal to prevent this kind of cancer. The new treatment is the stem cell transplant. This is also very new. They restore the body ability to produce new blood cell. So after the treatment, undergo the other forms of aggressive cancer treatment. Precision medicine, this is also very new step, but it is very expensive because you have to test your whole genome sequence. Because the black people and white people or Indian people or every people, they have the different genome sequence. Even everybody has a different genome sequence, but sequencing the whole genome in the human body in one person, it will be very expensive. But it can help for the doctor and the scientist to treatment which drug can work for this kind of group and not work for another type of group. This is called the precision medicine. This is very new but very expensive. Hopefully when the genome sequence testing will be very, very cheap, then will be this treatment will be more popular. So now the cancer prevention, how we can prevent the cancers. So not only the cancer, anything, you need the active lifestyle, like maintain the healthy weights. The height and weight, body mass index would be the very level, under the levels. So that's you need to maintain the healthy weights. And second, the quit smoking. Even the secondhand smoking can cause cancer. So any kind of tobacco smoking or tobacco using should not be. There are things you have to change your diet, like a healthy diet. When you go to the American store, in any American store in the farmer's market, you can see this kind of sign there. You can see that there are a lot of cherry, lot of blackberry, blueberry, and so many beans and other vegetable, fresh vegetable. So we have to find that kind of diets that can better to treatment of cancer, better to spend a lot of money for using some other food that are not that helping your body. So if you are thinking of how to take your body everyday meal, so you should consider meal everyday your meal mostly vegetable and fruits, not consider the meat or some other things. So if you go to the next time in any grocery stores, you can take this list. You can buy like sweet potato, broccoli, cauliflower, any green vegetables or fruits are very good. For grains, you can use the brown rice or whole grain pasta, lentils. There are a lot of proteins there. If you have bread breakfast, you can use the bread or tortillas or cereals. It's bit good for breakfast. And some you can use like the garlic, parts, the fruits, orange, like purples, fresh poison berries. The lot of protein there in the. If you consider protein, your body needs protein, so many proteins. But always consider protein take from the plant source, not the animal source. But in the Bengali people or some other people, they like the non-vegetables. So, but you can eat maybe the chicken or turkey. You can avoid the red fish, the red meat, and you can eat like a fish, like a salmon or halibuts. There are a lot of protein in the pinto beans, garbanzo beans, chickpeas or beans, any vegetables. There are also a lot of protein there. Also, there are a lot of protein in the milk. But you should know the milk also not a good food because they have a lot of fats. So you should eat the low fat milk. And egg also not a good, but you can eat egg, only one egg one day, not too many eggs. And you can snacks, you can try like tortilla or hummus or almonds. For condiments, you can eat the olive oils or canola oils or low fat or free salad dressing. Spices, the turmeric, the Indian and in the Asian people, they are using 100 or 1,000 years in the turmeric. This is the turmeric, the curcumins. They are the antioxidant that help for cell growth. So that's, you can use both all curry you are making or any foods. That's very helpful. Beverage, not alcohol at all. You can use the juice, 100% juice, no added sugars. And also green and white too. They also boost your body and also. So this is the cancer prevention. So you can see the top cancer causing food. You have the processed meats, any kind of processed meat like red meats or hot meats, they are probleming the cancer. Cookies, French fries, hot dogs, donuts, crackers, chips, bacons. These food are not a cancer causing, but how they make, how they process, how they curing, how to make the salting and fermenting, and what chemical they are using for preventing, for preservations, that cause the cancer. Like processed meat, they use a lot of the food with the formaldehyde or other things for preserves that make the DNA damage. Like the French fries, they hitting this potato chips in the 120 degree or higher. That time the asparagine and sugar make a reaction, make the acrylamide. That acrylamide put on the high temperature, becoming the polyacrylamide that damage the DNA. Same thing in the crackers or chips or bacons, they have a lot of nitrate or nitrites also. So that chemical causing for this cancer, not the food. Food is good, but how do they make and how do they preserve that cause cancer? Instead of that, you can take a lot of anti-cancer foods like a leafy green vegetables, any type of vegetables, cauliflower, turmeric, I also mentioned, sours of one kind of fruits, broccoli sprouts, naomi, garlic, tomato. These all are very good foods. So this is the summary of cancer preventions. You need the healthy diets, regular screening. So that's early detection will be helpful if somebody has cancer coming or not. That can be the regular screening that can be decided there. No smoking at all, any tobacco smoking. UV protection, I will come next slide. You can see there. And the vaccination, because of some cancer coming from virus, so there are already vaccination there. So you can take the vaccine so you can avoid that kind of cancer. And also live the stress-free lives, not only cancer, anything, if you're alive, if you're living stress-free lives, that's the most important. Maintain healthy weights. I already mentioned, you have to maintain your healthy weights, not the obesity, not a diabetic person, and regular exercise. You don't need to go gym, you can just walk, run, or yoga, whatever you want, you can do that every day. And the UV lights, we are studying there, a lot of scientists already reported. The UV lights coming for any sunny days, the 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. is the highest UV radiations. So you can avoid that time to not go to the outside. But if you want to go, you can use the sunscreen, which has sun protecting factor over 30, or you can use the sunglasses or protecting clothes. So here again, I mentioning here, suggesting there, avoid any red meats like a beef, lamb, goat, and pork. Avoid any junk and fast foods. They are very easy, you can find, but people are lazy, so they're eating the lot of junk and fast foods that causing a lot of cancer in America or other countries also. Avoid any kind of alcohol drinking, so that's also causing a lot of cancer. Not only cancer, some other problem also. And walk and run, yoga every day. This is the most important things in your life. So I acknowledge, I consider to thank my previous program directors of this project, Professor Melissa Perkia, Professor Jeep Ronay in the Sanford Burnham. He did all the in vivo study in the genogram model. In my colleagues, John Stebbins, Elisa Burrell, Wainan Wu. And if you want to more learn in the second part of my talk, you can read these books. You can find there everything there, even details there. And if you learn how to make the drugs or drug design, you can read the OILA books, Applied Organic Chemistry. It's not in the market now, but it's coming within 1 month. So if you have a lot of young people or students there, if you want to go to the research, the medicine research or medicinal chemistry, you have to, like the professor says, you need the good relationship between the chemist and biologist to discover a new medicine, almost like a marriage. We call the marriage by design. So otherwise, you cannot succeed. Only chemist cannot succeed, or only biologist cannot succeed to make a new drug. We need the good relationship with chemist and biologist in this field to make the new medicine come faster and faster. With that, I would like to thank you for your kind attention. It is always a pleasure to come here and participate.
Okay, Dr. Dev, please click on the stop sharing. Yep. It is very
If you have any questions.
Yeah, just a minute. It is very informative and wonderful lecture. We are really enriched and have learned many things from this lecture. Cancer is the second leading cause of death worldwide, with its various forms resulting it's nearly 1 out of every 6 mortalities each year. Cancer starts at cellular level and can form almost anywhere in the body.
That's right.
So, Dr. Dev deserves a big thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Dev.
You are all welcome.
Now the session is open for discussion. But one thing is that we are already running shortage of time. We cannot entertain all the questions from the participants. I'm seeing here there are 4 or 5 questions in the chat box. But we can take 1 or 2 quick questions. Shomendu Darbar he has one question. Which type of toxicity study you conducted? Which type of toxicity study you conducted?
We take all toxicity. We show the first is the body weight, or the changing or not, and that we just tested the compound in their blood chemistry. So then you can see that there are toxicity in the cardiac problem or not problem or in the lungs problem. We checked everything there.
And there is another question. Do you perform a chronic toxicity study?
What is that?
Did you perform the chronic toxicity study?
Yes, we did that also.
Okay. From Jaydeep Gangopadhyay, there is a question. How the exact position of any particular amino acid in a convoluted protein chain is precisely ascertained?
Because the protein has so many amino acids, they are the phosphorylation is the form.
Azobenzene absorption wavelengths after UV light irradiation shifts to shorter wavelength site. And this is docking simulation for lacase. Trans type having ligand 1 complexes are calculated as docking form into lacase, and the docking score and for some conditions are listed in this table. And this is the spectral change of circular dichroism and UV visible spectra on docking into lacase and complex 1. So changes in CD spectra and UV spectra indicates docking of metal complex to lacase experimentally. And here, this is the explanation of polarized absorption spectrum measurement. Azobenzene exhibit cis-trans photoisomerization by irradiation of visible and UV light. And additionally, azobenzene moiety exhibits photo-induced molecular alignment by irradiation of linearly polarized UV light. And this is number 1. And we measured by polarized UV visible spectra how alignment was done, and is number 2. And we plotted circular diagram as number 3. So we evaluated anisotropic parameter defined by R absorption 0 degree over absorption 19 degrees. Polarized absorption spectral measurement have been carried out. And this is the results of photo-induced molecular alignment. Next, we measured electrochemical property by cyclic Bolton-Gram. Measurement number 1 explains measuring of method onto the electrodes, and number 2 this shows a measurement method after irradiation of UV light, especially linearly polarized UV light, and change and detection of changing electrochemical properties. And this is the cyclic Bolton-Gram before and after UV light irradiation only to kappa complexes, number 1 through number 3. And the light used was linearly polarized UV light. So this is the corresponding spectral change during circular CV measurement. And this is the cyclic Bolton-Gram of Lacase protein. Lacase contains 4 kappa ion sites, and these showed a reduction of oxygen. And under oxygen, the reduction was observed clearly. And this is a cyclic Bolton-Gram of Lacase, including metal complexes, 1 through 3. And under oxygen, the oxygen reduction current value increased, and the potential shifted positively for all complexes. And this is cyclic Bolton-Gram change before and after UV light, a non-polarized UV light. So slightly accelerated oxygen reduction reaction of Lacase could be observed. And this is due to cis-trans isomerization of metal complex moieties, mainly. And this is cyclic Bolton-Gram change of the corresponding manganese complexes. And this result is similar to that of kappa complexes. And this is the results of the CV change of Lacase containing metal kappa complexes, and before and after linearly polarized UV light. They not only cis-trans photoisomerization, but also photo-induced molecular alignment could be occurred in these cases. So depending on the molecular orientation of the complexes, the oxygen reduction current value increased and potential shifted positively for all cases. And this is the summary of the this paper. Protein and complex were confirmed to be docked by different CD spectra and UV visible spectra. As a result of CV measurement, when linearly polarized light was irradiated to the complex alone, the current value of number 1 and number 2 complexes increased, especially when irradiated with polarized UV light, the current value of manganese complex increased from previous study. In the copper complex 2 and 3, the potential shifted positively, and 1 and 2 complex increased in current value was also observed. So here, I would like to talk my future work using heterogeneous surface. And this is the my previous study about chirality on gold nanoparticles. Induced CD of surface plasmon due to the chiral shift-based complexes can be by polarized UV light irradiation. Polarized UV light irradiation to as group resulting in Weigelt effect, as well as cis-trans photoisomization. The change of CD spectra is attributed to the change of conformation of metal complexes on the surface of gold nanoparticles. And this is also my previous work about photocatalytic metal complexes. Amino acid shift-based kappa-2 complexes and TiO2 can act as photocatalytic to reduce chromium-6 ion by UV light irradiation. The color change is the proof of reduction of chromium-6 into chromium-3. And this is dipeptide shift-based complexes. To improve affinity to lac-S, we have designed dipeptide shift-based ligand like this. And in this study, we compared merely shift-based and shift-based complexes incorporating azobenzene moieties. Lac-S and metal complex were docked, and the catalytic activity of lac-S were confirmed ABTS assay, which is a typical method for lac-S activity detection. And we built hybrid materials onto the electrode using oligopeptide, and we are aiming at the detection of CISS effect. Oligopeptide bridge on gold electrode can act as enantioselective spin filters, and by using such oligopeptide and its enantiomer L forms and D forms, we could detect the difference of CV results by difference of chirality. And this is a future plan. We would like to use substrate as of TiO2 and connecting oligopeptide bridge. We would like to construct lac-S and including mediator metal complex, and we would like to study biological and materials chemistry interface. So I expected such work will be an interface of materials and biological chemistry. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Professor Aketsu, for your illuminating lecture.
Thank you.
There may be questions or queries from participants' end. Yes, the question. Most of the cyclic voltammograms you have shown are appreciably irreversible, at least in voltammetric time scale, as evident from large deviation of the ratio of cathodic and anodic peak current from unity, whether the reduction signals are for azo or amine moiety. Could you have studied the real-time oxidoreductase activity by anisotropic EPR that might give rise to reduced anionic oxygenic radicals?
Sorry, we did not measure EPR. I would like to measure in future. Thank you for suggestion.
Okay. Now from Choita Khandar, excellent and lucid presentation, sir. Thank you very much. The appreciation. Another one, yes, nice talk, sir. Okay. So since there are no more questions, once again I must thank Professor Akitsu for gracing this conference and addressing the audience with your research work with us. Thank you, Professor Akitsu.
Thank you so much.
Okay, now the last invited lecture of this technical session, and the speaker is Dr. Rajarshi Das. Where are you? Yes. Okay. I can see you.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you're audible. Very much. Okay, now title of the deliberation is COVID-19 and its impact on mental health. We know this topic is very relevant of this pandemic time. The whole world is facing the challenges. We need to learn how to sail the boat. Moreover, there is a psychological impact of COVID-19 on the mental health in the general population. Being a psychiatrist doctor, Dr. Das will guide us what to do and what not to do, and ultimately how to overcome the situation. Dr. Rajarshi Das is currently working in Fieldhead Hospital, United Kingdom, as a consultant psychiatrist. Prior to this, he was associated with the different hospitals in United Kingdom. Formerly, Dr. Das worked as a psychiatrist in West Bengal Health Service. He earned MRCP from Royal Challenge of Psychiatrists, London. He obtained his MBBS degree from Calcutta Medical College under University of Calcutta. He is a member of Royal College of Psychiatrists, London, and also a fellow of Indian Psychiatric Society. He received NHS Leadership Academy Award under Marie Schiapol Program 2019. So with this brief introduction, I invite Dr. Das, please share your presentation.
Is the presentation started sharing?
Yeah, it's coming. Okay, no problem, sir. You can go ahead.
Yeah, is that all right? Yeah.
Yeah. You can just click on. Yeah, but it's not the full screen.
Is it not in the full screen? Just
Can you
try.
make it a little bit bigger?
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it
now?
Is it not coming in
Yeah.
full screen? Okay.
now.
Yeah. Thank you all for inviting me in this international webinar, and I specifically thank Dr. Pal for giving me the opportunity to present COVID-19 and the impact on mental health in your international webinar on chemistry at the biochemical interface. I think I was just listening to all of your presentations, and it's been amazing, the works that have been done by the eminent people who had presented before. I think I'm a bit of odd man out presenting as part of the mental health. Anyway, I think in this unprecedented time and this in this situation, I think mental health is a very important part in globally overall. So just briefly about the COVID situation in India. I think I got the data there yesterday, and it shows that there are 77,266 new cases on Friday, and the total cases were around about 3.39 million. And we have recorded more than 1,000 new deaths, taking a total fatality to around about 61,500, which is the fourth largest total in the world, just behind US, Brazil, and Mexico. And also, we have recorded the highest single-day caseload in the world every day since 7th of August. So, and the worst affected part of India is possibly the western state of Maharashtra, where's the home country's financial center, and the Mumbai as well. So, I think we are still, as one of the previous speakers have pointed out, we are still in the upward trend towards the graph, and I'm not sure about the R value. It might be anything round about more than 1.1 back in India. So it's still up, growing up at this moment. Saying that, it's really, as I said, it's a difficult time back in my country. If you see the case fatality rate in India, it's around about 1.8%, which is the same as the global. When we compare it globally, and so there is some positive news, at least, like 76% of the people who are getting infected are recovering. So that's quite positive. So as I say, in psychiatry and mental health, we need to be positive. So that's positive news for us. So saying that, just trying to put how I will present today's slide. So I'll give some case vignettes at first. And I'll speak about why there is a difference in presentation to different people with this COVID, especially in terms of mental health. I'll speak a bit about the epidemiology of the COVID-19 and the mental health. Important part is the psychological impact. Both there will be some major psychological impact. There will be some minor psychological impact. I will touch upon how we can cope with the stress in this situation, especially with the pandemic that is going on. What's the best way to move forward, and certain messages in general, what we need to do. And there are some prediction that we might be having a second wave. So how can we stay resilient if a second wave comes? So I will touch upon that as well. I've kept the question answer sessions at the end. I'm very happy to get the questions, in the message box, or if somebody wants to speak, I'm more than happy to answer those questions and the references, obviously. Well, as I said, we will first start with some case vignettes. This is what I have seen in my clinical practice since the COVID situation. It started around about February. So initially, people were not presenting with mental health problem because there was complete lockdown. People were in their house, and we were not getting much of the referrals. But I've just tried to share with you all 3 cases, and the reason why I'm sharing it is because this is how the COVID has affected our mental health. So this is a 35-year-old married lady who came from India and never known to have any psychiatric problem in the past. A highly functioning lady, used to be an IT professional. She relocated to UK last year, and she just wanted to enjoy life with her husband and children. Last year, she was absolutely at her top, spending time traveling throughout the country with family, and just felt that life has so much to give to her. So absolutely, she was enjoying her life. But situation, as I said, changed drastically with the COVID in March, April time. She started feeling very agitated, very anxious, absolutely, because she was housebound. She felt that she or either her family will succumb to corona and die. She had 2 children, and she was very worried that they will contract the virus, in spite of repeated reassurance by her family members as well as healthcare professionals. She was unable to cope with the situation. At one time, she told me that she wanted to jump from the window just to end her life so that she will get rid of this stress with corona. Very poor sleep, incessant crying. Thank God she had a timely professional intervention, not only in terms of medication, but and a holistic treatment like help from the psychologists, psychiatrists, and mental health nurses, which helped her, and some family kind of a therapy which helped her to recover from this situation. The reason why I presented this case is, see, this lady has never had any psychiatric problem. It's just the COVID which have precipitated this condition. She is doing very well at the moment. The next is, I want to present this case. This is a 28-year-old gentleman who have, as I said, again, never been seen by a mental health professional before. He was working as an executive in Sports Direct. In the last few months, because of the COVID situation, there was some relationship strain with his girlfriend, long distance, unable to meet. Both were housebound. To point out, he had a strong family history of a mental disorder. His mom and his aunt and his dad suffered from a significant psychiatric problem. So this gentleman never had any psychiatric history, with a strong family history. He suddenly started feeling very suspicious that China was tampering with his iPhone that he owned, and felt that all his thoughts and action were getting leaked by the 4G network that he was having. So he got very paranoid with the COVID, that the virus is spreading in the air and tampering his brain. In this situation, he was so desperate that he wanted to jump from a multi-storied building. He got extremely violent, and when we went there to review him, it was an emergency assessment. He just smashed. We saw that he was smashing the television in front of us, and we had to call the police, to intervene as an emergency measure. Tied a nose to get rid of the COVID. Unfortunately, this guy ended up in a psychiatric intensive care over here, and he's still getting treated. So again, I said no mental health history, but a strong family history. So the first case was there was no previous mental history, no family history, but this gentleman had a strong family history of a psychiatric problem. The next patient that I want to present is a 70-year-old gentleman. Now, this gentleman has an existing mental health problem with a dementia and depression, and he has got multiple physical health problems. So he used to go out, he used to have a routine, going out, meeting carers, friends in cafe, activities in the local dementia-friendly centers. He used to watch television, maintain a routine. But unfortunately, with the COVID situation, he had to shield. There's a thing called shielding over here. When people have multiple physical health problems, but people who are more than 65, they needed to shield over here. They were not allowed to go out at all. So that affected significantly his mental health. He was unable to understand the depth of the pandemic situation and started getting very agitated, confused. He was wondering, and obviously the psychiatric team had to intervene, and unfortunately he was taken to a 24-hour care in a nursing home, which deprived his liberty, because he was having although he had dementia, but he was still able to do things at his home. But COVID absolutely changed his situation. So saying this, so this is what I wanted to talk about. So I have discussed 3 cases. One had no mental disorder, no family history. One had a no mental disorder, but a family history, and then existing mental health problem with the third patient. So this coronavirus is not only has long-lasting implication on the physical health, but it is causing a significant effect on the mental health for each and every one of us. I think the reason why it is having might be related to few factors like social distancing, lockdown, loss of loved one due to the virus. Another important thing may be the overconsumption of the whatever things are put in the media, and it's having a huge toll in our mental well-being and our physical well-being. And I think even if the lockdown, obviously the lockdown is getting, we are easing out the lockdown, but even if the lockdown is over, I think this will continue to have a long-lasting effect. So we need to know things about coping with the situation. All right, yeah. But saying that when we talk about the mental health or the mental well-being, everybody is different. So if you see this picture, we are in this ocean, so huge waves. So we are in the same storm. So we are caught in the storm. So that's a COVID storm. We are caught over here, but we are all different. We are not in the same boat. Somebody has got a small boat. Somebody has got a big boat. Somebody has got equipments, a very well equipped boat. So everybody is different. So that's why COVID is affecting mental health differently in different situations. One of the difference might be the socio-cultural, mainly the social context, where it deprives, if somebody is deprived socially, even the economic deprived region, the mental health effect of COVID is much more than the other people. So if we look into it, we need to understand that fear, stress, and worry, they are all normal responses because we have a perceived threat now with the COVID. So fear and worry are quite normal to us. But when this stress is going to a distress level, then only it is having an effect on on our mental health. So at one point, in the core thing is the COVID, which is causing the threat. But then, so that's a central core. But there are associated things that is also affecting our mental health, like the ancillary factors like working from home, stresses from working from home, unemployment, homeschooling, isolation. So these are all affecting our, and obviously as I mentioned, the social and economic factors that is posing a problem. So there are some studies with the fiscal studies in UK and US who are pointing it out that certain people coming from a socio-cultural background are having a significant effect over mental health as compared to who are economically or socially more advanced. So there is a bit of discrimination, I would say. Now, there were some questions about is the COVID racist or not? And in UK, it is affecting the Black Asian minority population significantly rather than other population. Well, there can be reasons because healthcare, people who are getting the healthcare and the social and the cultural context might be different. Overcrowding might be a problem. So genetically they might be different. So there is a difference. So as I mentioned, so we are in the same storm, but we are not in the same boat at all. There will be difference. It might be from individual level. It might be differences in the community. Okay. So as I said, some certain populations in our society already at a higher risk of experiencing this poor problem. So also to mention, we are experiencing prejudice, discrimination, and isolation due to other identities based on gender, ethnicity, residency status, sexual orientation, disability. So that the whole point of talking about this is basically it is different in different population and different strata in our community. So it's not, although it's a global pandemic, but the effect on mental health will be different to different population. Right, coming to the epidemiology of how frequent is the mental health problems related to the COVID situation. Well, we don't have any population-based studies at the moment because it's too early to do any cross-sectional studies and come to a conclusion. Mainly, it's based on web surveys, and from the web survey that I have gathered, the British Medical Journal or the American Journal of Psychiatry, and some studies are coming up from India as well, saying that 2/3 of the young people and 3/4 of adults who participated in survey had a personal experience of mental health problem. Of those who did not have experience of mental health problems, so 1 in 6 had friends with mental health problem from the survey. 1 in 4 had a family member with a mental health problem, and some were carers with someone with a mental health problem or worked in the mental health sector. Right, I did get some data from a survey that came up in Times of India recently. I mean, we should not be there. If you get to see this data, it's quite high, but it was I think the number of people that they surveyed were quite less, but still worth sharing, because it says that quite a lot of stress and anxiety have been there. The data shows the stress and anxiety with this lockdown period, and 30% of the therapists have observed an increase in clients who have self-harmed, as well as those who have expressed suicidal ideation or death wish. This is another thing that I wanted to mention with this COVID situation, although, as I mentioned, that initially it was all quiet, but suicides and self-harming behaviors are becoming more prominent with this current COVID situation and the lockdown period. Also, the therapists are experiencing caregiver fatigue as a result of the pandemic. Those who are looking after mental health people, they are also getting fatigued. There's one report from the media that suicide has been the leading cause of more than 300 non-coronavirus deaths. I think the first death happened in Kerala. One of that was when first corona hit India, and one person committed suicide because he thought that he had contacted this virus. But from that time onwards, we have seen quite a number of suicidal deaths, unfortunately. I don't want to mention anything that is happening at this current moment. There's huge hue and cry with media with one of the actors. But anyway, we need to acknowledge that this suicidal rates and self-harming have increased. So saying that, from my previous slides, I just want to mention that what can Corona do? Because it's a stressful time, there are 3 things that are happening. It can exacerbate the illness who are already having a mental health problem. It can precipitate the onset of illness who are prone to become mentally ill. So they might be having a family history of mental illness. There might be some genetic link or an epigenetic link prior to developing mental illness. It is very important to identify those people who have a family history. So, and we need to be more careful, to cope with stress in this population. And the third people are the relapse of illness who are already doing well, either with or without medication. So those who have a previous history of mental illness. So what are the main psychological impact that the COVID is having in us? As I said, it can be minor, it can be major, but the main psychological impact from my clinical experience is anxiety and exacerbation of depression, I would say. So why? Because there is impacts on the quarantine and its effects of many people's usual activities, routines, livelihoods. Everything is like here and there. So that has caused a lot of loneliness, The other thing that I am seeing is the increased usage of substances or alcohol, because people are not going out, not socializing, and they are just in their own home. And some of the vulnerable people are trying to drink more alcohol to cope with this situation, which is obviously having a deleterious effect on the mental well-being. So that's what I have. Well, some people are experiencing we call it post-traumatic stress disorders, but that's not very common. I would say more of anxiety, severe anxiety and depression, and harmful use of alcohol. I just want to give a brief idea why, because this suicide, as I was mentioning in my previous slides about the self-harm and suicide, there's a bit of difference between a self-harm and a suicide. I just want to give you some psychoeducation. What is self-harm and what is suicide? So self-harm is when you hurt yourself on purpose. Usually you have a severe distress in your mind, and that comes up as a self-harming. So like people might just slash their wrist, people can prick their skin, but they basically why they do it is they are coping with that feelings. Now, self-harm might not necessarily have suicidal thoughts or ideas or plans, but sometimes self-harm can be accidental. Some people who may be self-harming accidentally, they can do anything. So we need to keep an eye of people who are self-harming. But then the other thing is suicide. Suicide is that there's a gloomy thought in your mind that you are very low and there is no point, there is nothing at the end of the tunnel. You want to end your life and you want to be free from this unbearable emotion or the physical pain. So that's suicide. That's a suicidal thoughts. So we need to be very careful picking up these thoughts. Those who have a self-harming thoughts or those who have a suicidal thoughts, whatever it may be, needs professional help. So if you get in touch with anybody who are expressing this kind of thoughts, please do try to help them out, get in touch with professionals, because these are core major psychiatric problems. Okay. As I said, if it is hard to know how you are feeling, but if you are worried about any person, because with this COVID lockdown, it might not be possible to meet them up. So check them regularly, make it a part of your regular routine, or message them, call them, or make a video chat, talk to them about how you feel, and offer to help them to find, support with professional help. Okay. As I said, there can be some milder issues. So I've talked about the major issues. There can be some milder issues with this lockdown, because everybody is going through a stressful time, and as I mentioned, the daily routine is completely gone now. So we are requiring to move to a more comfort zone and adapt accordingly. So issues we are with lockdown, isolation, quarantine, working from home, problem with employment, kids are there at home, they're all doing homeschooling, social and physical contact with other family members. There might be some fear of contracting the virus. We might be worrying about people close to us who are particularly vulnerable. Sometimes it can be affecting our personal relationship. But as I said, these are quite normal worries, and they are not severe enough to define as a mental disorder. Mental disorder will be when somebody is having a persistent problem with their mind, with their mood. They have some biological symptoms, like they are poorly sleeping, their appetite has gone down, they have got a weight loss, they're abusing alcohol, or they're extremely agitated, anxious, shaking, trembling, having palpitations, and unable to function. The most important thing is a person's functioning. So when you have a persistent mood problem or a persistent anxiety, may be related to the corona, but it is affecting your day-to-day functioning, whether it can be to do with your family or to do with your job. So if it is affecting your functioning, then only we call it a mental disorder, and that needs professional help. Whereas this stress related to lockdown, isolation. There can be a normal part of the stress. And if we do some coping mechanisms, we can get rid of them. So it will not amount to a significant mental disorder. So who are the high-risk groups? As I said, this corona has been very selective, and young adults are very prone to get depression and suicidal thoughts due to the COVID situation. Late life, more than 70 who are isolated, they are also they are very high-risk group of having a depression or anxiety. People who have a pre-existing mental health condition, they are also more prone with the COVID. If somebody has got long-term disabling illness, unemployment, as I said, a minor ethnic background, an abusive relationship, LGBT communities, think that these are the really high-risk groups. So we need, if you see people who are from this high-risk group, they're very prone from COVID-related mental health. Right. So I've talked about some case vignettes. I talked about what are the major and the minor kind of psychological problems that we encounter with the COVID situation. Now we are coming to treating stress. Yeah, Dr. Pal, how many minutes have I got? Okay. Right. So in terms of treating stress in COVID, I would like to, there can be three parameters, I would say. We have a general coping strategy. We have what are the common challenges arising in the pandemic and the recommended coping skills for those challenges, all right? So if we come to a general coping skills, I would say these are the most important things. So we divide into some behavior and some emotions. So in terms of behavior, what we can do with this COVID situation, as I said, sleep is very, very, very important. So maintain a sleep hygiene, at least 7 hours of sleep, I would say, 7 to 8 hours of sleep at night. Eat healthy, I would say, three meals. Sometimes we might not be able to make 3 meals, but at least try 3 healthy meals per day. Exercise, very, very important. And exercise means evidence-based what you are doing. So an exercise with a heart rate of around about more than 120. So that's kind of an aerobic thing that actually helps in reducing your stress level. Okay.
Excuse me, Dr. Dash.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I was unmuted. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, I was muted. So maybe 2 to 3 minutes are left. Yeah.
Okay. 2 to 3 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. So emotional. Yeah. Express yourself while talking to co-workers. We can validate the others. We can monitor our feelings. We can make a diary. Just how we are feeling, and then reflect on those. It is very important. If you reflect on your own thoughts in terms of this stressful situation, it helps quite a lot. And obviously, you engage in self-compassion and set your limits. Connect with those, obviously, whom you love. Okay. Now, social distancing, we all know it's a norm now, isn't it? So connect well what we are doing, friends online, increase virtual communication, find something to get out of your house as you are safe. All right. Yeah. Now, our home life, there is a disruption. So be mindful what you do the best you can. So accept the idea that you are not going to be perfect parent right now, because people are working from home. So there will be some home life disruption. Okay. We will have some fear of contamination. So obviously when you go out, you feel you might be infected. So recognize that going out is necessity. You have to go sometimes, and we are not in complete control of our ability to control contamination. So no matter what we do, if your hands are turning red, you should see that obviously you are overwashing. Okay. Now we have a rapidly changing system in our job. So take breaks from the emails. Just recognize other people's positive intent. As I said, time is a best healer. It will go away. And sometimes we have to accept that idea that no control, sometimes we don't have any control in situations. All right. Careful about the misinformation, disengage, if you feel the social media is too much, read beyond the headlines if that's coming up in the media, and try not to spread information that is not confirmed. Okay. As I said, get creative, get some coping skills quite well, go for a walk. Most important practice, I would say, is I want to highlight this things we call mindfulness. So it's a basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we are doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's going on around. Okay, so there are a few facets, caveats of mindfulness. You can do some squeezing muscle techniques. You can do some abdominal or what we call belly breathing. Need to be mindful when you're eating as well. We call it a mindful meal. You can do some transcendental meditation, whatever meditation you do. Blowing bubbles is another good way. If you blow bubbles, just look into the color of the bubbles. So that's a good way of what we call mindfulness. You can listen to music. There are a couple of YouTube videos. You can just type mindfulness and practice mindfulness with your family. So nowadays we are shifting this mindfulness with, we call it family mindfulness. Practice with all your family, and that will help in this crisis situation. Talking to kids about the topic, you need to be careful about what you're talking, okay? And come up with the daily chores or routines for your children. So messages in general: eat healthy, be aware of smoking and drinking alcohol, exercise, as I said, aerobic ones, 120, heart rate should be more than 120. Take time out, try to practice meditation, mindfulness, sleep important. Don't be too hard on yourself. And most important thing, try to reflect and practice self-compassion. Okay. What if a second wave comes? The uncertainty is a new norm, isn't it? We have to accept new ways of living. You have to just reboot your system with habits, rituals, and routines. Just to remember that this is a marathon, not a sprint, and we must all pace ourselves towards forward. So positivity ahead with this situation. Now I end my lecture by, this was, I don't know whether this was in social media. I don't know whether it was during the Spanish flu or not, but I found it very interesting. It's like a timeless poetry. It says, and people stayed at home and read books and listened and rested and did exercises and made art and played and learned new ways of being and stopped and listened more deeply. Someone meditated, someone prayed, someone met their shadow, and people began to think differently, and people healed. And in the absence of people who lived in ignorant ways, dangerous, meaningless, heartless, the earth also began to heal. And when the danger ended and people found themselves, they grieved for the dead and made new choices and dreamed of new visions and created new ways of living and completely healed the earth just as they were healed. I don't know whether it was written in Spanish or not, but I found it a very, very interesting poem in terms of Corona. Okay, these are the references. Question and answers. Am I on time, Dr. Pal?
Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you, Dr. Dash, for your very inspiring and fascinating lecture. Yeah, we understand.
Thank you.
Being a doctor, you have taken time out from your important schedules to contribute to this webinar. I'm sure that the participants must have been benefited by attending this lecture, and this will help to overcome the mental health related problem in these situations, as stress, depressions, anxiety, these are the common problems to everyone. There must be many questions, as this is a very hot topic of discussion even among the common people. So we may take one or two quick questions from the audience as we are running short of time. Okay.
Okay. Dr. Pal, you can always share my email. If somebody has got any specific questions, they can always email.
We need
I'm
you.
more than happy.
We need you. Yeah, there is a question, sir. Can COVID positive patients lose these cognitive abilities? If yes, then how COVID affects CNS, central nervous system?
I mean, yeah. there are still no studies that the COVID is having an effect, because it is obviously very new. In order to have an effect on a brain and the neural, obviously it is having an effect on the brain. Otherwise, why people are getting anxious? So there is something definitely going on. There will be chemical imbalance. There will be a problem in certain different areas of the brain, but still not yet we have seen that it is present. COVID can have an effect on the neurons to have a degeneration. We have not seen any studies yet, but it might be quite early. But it can have an effect on attention and concentration, and that can affect to some extent your cognitive abilities. So if people are getting very anxious, you are unable to focus on things, and if you're unable to focus, obviously you cannot register the information. So in that way, it can have some cognitive impact. But as I said, still very early to say. We need to look into, in future, we might be looking into some longitudinal studies to see whether it is having an effect on cognitive abilities. Yeah, but very interesting question.
One question from Professor Pratik Kumar Sen from Jadavpur University. He wrote, very useful discussions in the present scenario. From Sanjay Shahu, these informations are just like medicines, will help us in future if we fall in trouble. And the next question, just wait a minute. From Jaideep Ramupadhyay, for months we have witnessed that many doctors presented a number of simulation studies in support to increase the lockdown period, and even predicted a time for corona eradication. Unfortunately, neither of the assumptions meet with success in reality. What are factors or variables for such model study?
I think absolutely. Fantastic question to ask. There are some studies by the International Faculty of Fiscal Deficits. So they have pointed these discriminations, mentioned in my slides. It is affecting differently in different communities. So definitely, it's like a random model we should be looking into. It's something very complex, and we need to take into all these variables. I think you are very, very right. But as I said, there are fiscal studies which